let's talk about UFOs. You know, it's a topic that's just loaded with everything from grainy photos to, well, actual government hearings these days. But how do you even start to make sense of it all? The sheer number of reports can feel like you're drowning in an ocean of noise. So today, we're going to look at one really methodical attempt to find the signal inside all that static.
So where do we even begin? Well, not with some grand sweeping theory, but with a single real-world story. This one comes from the thousands upon thousands of official reports that have been logged by the National UFO Reporting Center, also known as NUFORT.
So here's what they said they saw. Imagine this. A mother and her brother are just driving home one afternoon, and they see something so bizarre they literally pull the car over to watch it. And it's this vivid, strange detail that makes a report like this one just stick in your mind.
Okay, let's break down the case file, shall we? The sighting happened near Aguilar, a pretty small town down in southern Colorado. The date was March 15, 2000.
And get this, the report says there were 2 observers. In this case, they were family members, which is a detail that, often adds a little bit more credibility to these kinds of stories.
So officially, the shape they filed this under was rectangle. The witnesses said the object was moving slowly, didn't seem to have any wings, and just kind of cruised consistently across the sky until it was gone.
All right, so we have this one really compelling story. But what do you do with it? This is the big challenge, right? How do you take a single, isolated anecdote and turn it into something, well, something meaningful?
Exactly. On its own, a story like the one from Aguilar is, well, it's just a story. It's a fascinating data point of one. How can we possibly make sense of that, let alone the thousands of other reports that are just like it?
And this right here perfectly frames the problem. An anecdote is isolated, it's subjective. But when you start collecting thousands of them, you don't just have stories anymore, you have a data set. And that is where the real potential is, in hunting for the patterns, the common themes, the correlations that no single story could ever show you on its own.
And this is precisely the approach that was taken in the book Ufology by James M. Campbell. He was really a pioneer in this methodical attempt to treat all these thousands of stories not as individual little mysteries, but as one giant collection of raw data just waiting to be analyzed.
This is the key. McCampbell's whole idea was that we should stop getting so bogged down in trying to prove or disprove any one single report. The real goal, as he puts it, is to find the common elements threading their way through a large number of reports. That's how you start to build a composite picture. Okay, so let's see how this method actually works. The first step in analyzing any data is classification. So McCampbell started with the most basic question. What did people actually say they saw? He began building a kind of taxonomy of what he called the vehicles.
And bam, right away, the first pattern started to emerge. 3 shapes just kept showing up over and over and over again in reports from all over the globe. Classic disc-shaped objects, long fuselages, kind of like the body of an airplane, and simple spheres.
But he didn't just stop at the shape. He also found really clear patterns in the reported sizes. And the range is just incredible, from these tiny 1 to 3 foot things he called probes, all the way up to gigantic carriers, which were potentially a mile long. But the most common, he noted, was what he called the standard class, which was a 25 to 35 foot disc.
To make this more concrete, let's take that fuselage category. McCampbell points to a report from 1966 out in Oklahoma where a witness described this huge object just blocking the highway that looked exactly like the body of a giant cargo plane, but with no wings, no engines, and no tail.
So this brings us all the way back to our first story, remember? The report described 2 metallic boxes connected by a shorter cylinder. Now, it's not a perfect fuselage, but it's definitely more long and narrow than it is a disc. You can start to see how this framework gives us a language to compare these otherwise totally unrelated events.
But shape is only one pattern. Another major area that McCampbell zeroed in on was how people described the lights and the colors. He tried to go beyond just what the lights looked like and dig into what they might actually mean.
Now, he came up with this really fascinating theory. McCampbell hypothesized that the colors people saw weren't random at all. He thought they were a direct result of the object's energy output interacting with the gases in our own atmosphere. So at a low energy state, it just looks metallic. As the energy ramps up, maybe it excites xenon gas and you get a blue glow. Then neon for an orange-red. And at maximum power, you get a brilliant white light from the air itself being fully ionized.
And this is where his data analysis gets so cool.
He found tons of reports, just like this one, where witnesses specifically mentioned that a color change happened right before the object changed its movement. That color shift seemed to be a signal that it was about to accelerate.
So the big takeaway here is that the colors might not be decorative at all. McCampbell's hypothesis is that they are a direct byproduct of the propulsion system. A change in color is like a signal flare, showing a change in the craft's energy state, probably as it's getting ready to speed up or slow down.
So what does all of this really give us? I mean, no matter what you believe about this whole topic, what McCampbell's approach really offers is a method. It's a framework for putting some structure on the unexplained and actually trying to find meaning inside of it.
This really gets to the heart of the whole idea. As McCampbell writes in his preface, the common elements threading their way through a large number of reports take on the greatest meaning. It's not about any one photo or any one story, it's about the details that keep showing up again and again across decades and across continents.
Ultimately, an analysis like this isn't about proving what these objects are. It's about how we approach a mystery. And it leaves us with a really important question. No matter what the subject is, what can we learn just by systematically searching for patterns in the things we don't yet understand?